Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back for another Dragon Ball figure news video. Ladies and gentlemen, we're apparently back on doing it every Tuesday. I don't know, I feel like the Tuesday's kind of nice because it lets the weekend news come in, and occasionally we do get the news for the next month of the prize figures. Unfortunately, that is not the case this time, as I believe we still have one more week to wait until we get that news. However, we do have a pretty big figure re-release that may or may not be the title of the thumbnail of this video to discuss today, as well as some general figure news from the past 2 weeks, as per usual with this bi-weekly series. So let's go ahead and hop into it, starting off as per usual on the DBZFigures.com website. Thank you guys for always holding it down with the great summaries of stuff. So apparently this was officially announced as of recent. They also talked about this on the Tamashi Nation's Instagram account too. These SH Figuarts figures will be re-releasing very, very soon. The Goku dining set, which if you remember we talked about that, it comes with this Goku faceplate for the Saiyan raised on Earth Goku. Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which actually got a re-release a little while ago. Funny enough, he's literally on my desk. I'm looking at him right now. I got him on the last re-release. The Goku himself, right, the Saiyan raised on Earth Goku, which makes sense that they would re-release this if they're going to release the accessory kit for it, right, or re-release it rather. The Krillin, right, the SH Figuarts Krillin from recently, which I'm kind of surprised about considering he was just a general release and he was only like 35 bucks, so he must have been really popular if it's warranting a re-release of this guy. I actually have him too, I never opened him though. And the boy Shinron as well, which I think this figure's gotten released a bunch of times because I swear I've seen it in stores and stuff a bunch of times. Tamashi talked about how apparently these are all getting re-released next month, which by the way this post was made a week ago, and the pre-orders will be available apparently starting today. I looked on some figure websites and I could not find the pre-orders for these, so you might have to look around a little bit to be able to find these. But yeah, if you don't have any of these figures, this would definitely be a good time to cop it, especially Saiyan raised on Earth Goku. This is like the standard base form Goku. There's also the superhero Goku now too, where he's just like a standard base form Goku. Any of those will work, but both of them are fantastic SH Figuarts figures. Okay, so moving on to the next page, because we started off basically like right here, looking from last week's video where we actually covered 4 weeks worth of news. We had the Tamashi Nation's New York store where they opened up the grand opening. I almost started singing stuff into the grand tour, bro. They had the Tamashi Nation's New York store officially open. They actually made a little bit of an Instagram account for it, which is pretty cool, talking about the different figures that they have available at the store, obviously showing you like a little bit of the store here. Very cool that they actually have like a brick and mortar store. You could even get the SDCC exclusives at the store, which was pretty cool. Here's what it looks outside. That looks awesome. That's really, really cool. I'm assuming that this is gonna be a permanent thing, because this looks like a permanent building to me. I don't think this is like a pop-up shop or anything like that, and if they're making an actual Twitter account for it, I would assume that it's probably not a pop-up shop. So that is pretty cool, honestly. There is a actual website for it here. So if you live in NYC, this would definitely be a cool place to go visit to check out some SH Figuarts figures. As you can see, right, they have a couple of exclusives at the store. Interestingly enough, this is in Japanese, which is funny because it's in New York. Even the map is in Japanese. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, so if you live in NYC, this store will be a place you can go and pick up a bunch of different types of SH Figuarts. Don't worry, we'll talk about him in a second. And obviously just kind of explore the shop and see what they got. Very, very interesting. Although, they did note here, it looks like they kind of botched it with reservation system, as it doesn't seem to be working from their Instagram page. They made it so you have to make a reservation and get into the store. Interesting. Probably for security reasons, as many large cities have been experiencing retail theft lately. Interesting. However, the system doesn't seem to work, and I haven't seen it work since it was announced yesterday. This post, by the way, was made on the 8th of September. There is a link. You can search for it on Google, but not sure if that's legit or not. I'm not in New York City either, but if you are, let me know if you're able to make an appointment to get in. They're offering the Kid Goku figure at the store, so try to pick one up if you can. Yeah, so this guy was limited to the Tamashi Nation store in New York for 36 bucks. Which is really interesting that they would make a figure like specifically limited to a store in a specific location like this. Like, I don't know. It's a little bit different if you make a store exclusive to like an online website that everybody can access, or like Target or GameStop or Walmart or something that's like a little bit more accessible for the general populace, or even, you know, a store that would have an online website. But for one store in one city in the entire world, I don't know. It just seems a little bit silly. But nonetheless, that is what we got for the Tamashi Nations store update. This was also something very interesting, and we will definitely be covering this when it eventually happens. Dragon Ball is going to be coming back to New York Comic-Con with an exhibit, and the fans don't seem to be too happy, apparently. There's a lot of negative comments on the official site for this post. The moderators haven't got to deleting the post, so check it out before it's removed. Interesting. I actually didn't even know you could leave comments on this website. Yeah, interesting. I didn't even know that you could read comments on the official Dragon Ball site. Yeah, deleted. Interesting. A lot of these were deleted. Interesting. I wonder why. That probably means that they were deleted before, obviously, we're taking a look at them here. On a side note, I wish they focused on the West Coast more. I know many think New York City is a big attraction. Yes, it is for a large population. Interesting. My boy's fit, and he wants the other side, bro. That's funny. I mean, I do agree with him, though. But to be fair, I guess that's what SDCC is for. But to be fair, I feel like New York Comic-Con is kind of like the Comic-Con, right? Like, it's the most well-known one, I'm pretty sure. Regardless, though, obviously, this was where we had the announcement that there was apparently going to be some kind of large Dragon Ball announcement at this event. And I'm sure that there will also be some figure-related stuff that will be happening at NYCC. We get an exclusive figure like every single convention, so it will not surprise me if we get one or more you know, convention exclusives for SH Figuarts or other figures. Like, obviously, we just had the SDCC Gohan and Majin Vegeta and Gogeta and Raditz, right? As well, they do show off a lot of upcoming figures at these events, too. So, when we get New York Comic-Con stuff, when we get all the images from people who are attending the event and the official images and stuff, obviously, I will be covering all of that on the channel. So, don't you worry about that. This was something pretty cool. The Kid Goku actually got a exclusive box, which is pretty cool. You could only get this box, I guess, if you got it at the store, which kind of doesn't make sense because it's only available at the store, but cool nonetheless, I guess. It is a little, I will say, like, even though it is cool, it's kind of sleek, it is a little bit boring. I don't know, I much prefer the original, like, just, you know, SH Figuarts packaging. I don't know how they would have necessarily incorporated the big, like, Tamashi Nation store logo on the side. Maybe they could have just put it on the other side, or, like, put it as, like, the silver text on the clear window packaging, rather than just kind of slapping it on there. But I don't know. I really like the clear window packaging of the SH Figuarts figures. Okay, the Tamashi Nation's 15th Anniversary World Tour. We are actually going to talk a little bit about this, which is kind of interesting. So, they are having this event right now, or I guess actually just passed, funny enough, this weekend, would it not have been? Yeah. From the 15th to the 17th. This was in Paris at the Pavilion Rivere. I'm definitely butchering that. I'm sorry to anybody who speaks French. Please, if you do, let me know in the comments how you actually pronounce this. I apologize that I probably butchered the heck out of this. However, regarding this event, right, unfortunately we don't have anything from it here, which we will take a look at the rest of this info in a second. But what was cool was we did actually get, as you can see, they posted about it here, and we got a couple of pictures, I believe, from the event. This was in the Tamashi Nation's New York store, which is cool to see that they have more than just Dragon Ball. They have a bunch of different franchises, and we'll take a look at that in a second, don't you worry. But this was actually some pictures from the little event that they had in Paris, which was pretty cool, that they actually posted some stuff. Obviously, oh, they have a video too. If you want to check this out, check it out on Instagram. I don't know if there'll be any, like, copyright claims or anything. But yeah, they had a bunch of stuff, right? They had some Naruto stuff on display, which was really cool. They had the Gear 5 Luffy Figuarts Zero figure on display, which looks awesome. This thing looks a lot bigger than I think it actually is. It looks almost like life-sized. That is a really cool statue. Holy cow, that's awesome. Anyway, in terms of Dragon Ball, I believe the main showing was this right here, where we had the Dr. Gero and Android 19, as well as Yamcha, and the funny old metal cooler that we've talked about a couple times on the series. And, not to mention, we also had the GT Kid Goku, the Armored Trunks, and a figure that I am personally super excited for, the 3.0 Legendary Super Saiyan Goku. I gotta say, I've seen so many pictures of this guy, but I feel like I've never seen this angle particularly. His chest is so brolic, bro. It is like perfect Namek Saga Goku. Definitely very, very well done. This looks like perfect to me. I'm really excited to get my hands on that figure for sure. And they did actually have the convention exclusive Figuarts Zero Gogeta, as well as the Figuarts Zero Janemba on display at the event. I will say, again, from seeing a bunch of pictures of this guy, I swear his face looks a little bit better for the Gogeta than the original release of him. I would almost consider getting this figure, but I don't know. I just don't want to be burned in case I do, because I still have the original figure, and I've literally never taken it out of the box. As well with Janemba, I still feel like he looks fine, but I feel like something about his face almost looks worse than the last time I saw this figure. And the shading is so dark on this guy. Like, I don't know. I swear in the original images, I don't remember the shading being that dark, but in more recent stuff, I feel like I've been seeing it like that. So I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see how the figure actually ends up turning out. But yeah, that was basically it in terms of Dragon Ball, unfortunately, for the event. But to be fair, obviously, like, One Piece is a big focus right now. The Year 5 Luffy SH Figuarts figure looks awesome, too. I just realized that Kaido is going to be huge. Holy cow. But yeah, so pretty cool, though, nonetheless. Obviously, having this little event, you can see, ironically enough, Goku did get the biggest figure there, though, which, oh, that's cool. It's in this little, like, area right here. I do, this is actually, I'm pretty sure, based on the first, like, Awakening Goku that was like the 1.0 Super Saiyan Goku, which is kind of interesting. But to be fair, I'm sure that that statue has probably been around the block. I'm sure that they didn't make it for this event. But yeah, that is pretty cool. Definitely a very nice little event, obviously, if you are located in the area and you were able to go to that. If you are just finding out about it now through this video, I'm sorry, because that kind of stinks for sure. And I think, I'm sure that you could buy some SH Figuarts figures there, but I don't think they had any, like, exclusives or anything. Maybe except for the Awakening Goku that they had, which I know was an exclusive for this when it came to New York, for sure. Anyhow, Dragon Ball Weekly News for the 11th. I believe that there was nothing too crazy in terms of Dragon Ball figures, rather. I was going to say instead of Dragon Ball figures. But we did get the release of the History Box Ultimate Gohan at game centers across Japan. I don't know why he put Ultimate Gohan. I think that was a typo there, if I'm being honest with you. But rather, the Gohan Beast was the figure that released in Japan, and obviously he is coming to us next month. We've taken a look at a couple IRL pictures of this guy, and we're definitely going to take a look at some more later in this video for sure. But yeah, cool that he is finally releasing in Japan, though. That is why we've been getting a bunch of images of him on Twitter and whatnot, because people have been getting their hands on the figure, and obviously that's a beautiful art. And obviously the game stations and whatnot that, like, have him available have been able to, you know, like, post pictures of him. There he is. That's what I was looking for in the video. Yeah, that is unfortunately the only figure thing from this week of this week, not this video, this literal week of Dragon Ball Weekly News. Very interesting. They added a couple more Dragon Ball merch items. The only reason why I'm even really bringing this one up is because they have this thing on display, oh, that's actually a really cool hat, low-key. $20? And it's a snapback? Your boy might cop that. Anyway, this is the first official Dragon Ball Z acrylic logo display. Now, you guys probably remember us taking a look at these in a couple of past videos if you are familiar with my figure news series. I have shown the Dragon Ball GT one before. I think they made a Dragon Ball one as well. But these are like these official stands that are supposed to go with your Dragon Ball figures, right? You can see a little Dragon Ball figure there. You can see these are high grade, I think. These are Gashapon figures, regardless of Goku and Vegeta. The Saiyan raised on Earth Goku. That's the original SH Figuarts Piccolo there. And, as you can see, obviously just a little bit of a side view of this little thing. Now, this thing seems cool, right? Like, it's a little display. You could have, like, you know, a Dragon Ball Z display and, like, a Dragon Ball Super display and Dragon Ball and, you know, GT and whatever. But $32.99? And if you are familiar with the size of SH Figuarts figures, you would realize, wait a minute, this thing is really small. That's right. 4.72 inches by 1.53 inches, which is 12 centimeters by 3.9 centimeters, for those of you who don't use inches. So this thing is about 1.5 inches tall and about 5 inches wide. That is crazy small for this price. I thought that this was a really cool concept when they introduced this, because lots of collectors have this sort of thing where they have like a little like plaque or something like that to represent like the saga that's on display on their shelf or something like that, right? Like even me, I have like the Dragon Ball Super Broly postcard like in a little frame with a little setup of my Dragon Ball Super Broly figures like on my wall. But for 32, 33 rather, more like it, for that price, that is definitely not worth it. And that's not Big Bad Toy Store's doing, that's Bandai's doing. So I don't know. I think this is such a cool concept for not for this price, though. You could make this for way cheaper. You could have, I'm sure, somebody 3D print this and paint this for you and mail it to you, and it would probably be less than 33 bucks. So I don't know. Just kind of unfortunate that it's that high of a cost. Still a cool item nonetheless. Okay, so this was the next thing that I really wanted to talk about. This is a pretty interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. So, we got an announcement recently that Tamashi Nations will be at NYCC. Wow, who would have guessed? You know, they're there literally every year. And it looks like it will not only have convention exclusives, but store exclusives as well. They show off the Dragon Fist Super Saiyan 3 Goku as a part of the Figuarts Zero line, and I'm assuming they will also have the store exclusive Kid Goku. The cost will be $96, and NYCC will take place from October 15th to the 16th at the Javits Center. I believe I am pronouncing that right. Now, I'm not sure if this means that this is the only convention exclusive figure that we're going to be getting, or if they're just not announcing it all yet and they're waiting until we get a little bit closer to the date. I do remember, I think it was New York Comic-Con, was the convention that we got the SH Figuarts Broly, right? The, like, I think, did they call it the Power Awakening one? Regardless, it was like the shiny paint job of the Super Saiyan Broly from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, right? And that guy was the only convention exclusive at that time. So maybe they're going to do this. Like, obviously, for the SDCC figures, we had Gogeta last time as the convention exclusive, along with a couple SH Figures figures. So maybe they're just going to do this one this time. I'm not sure. However, I really wanted to talk about this figure because I think it's really interesting. So first of all, let's look at the actual page on the Instagram. As you can see, right, Tamashi Nation's store is joining New York Comic-Con. It's interesting that they specify Tamashi Nation's store. Maybe that's because, obviously, like, they're trying to promote the new store that they just opened up in New York. Not only will we have special event exclusives, but also store exclusives from our new location in Times Square, which definitely would lead me to believe, right, that Kid Goku will probably be at the event. Yeah, this person does mention, I was correct about that with Broly. Please do online orders for pickup again, like last year. That system was perfect, and avoid the scalpers. So apparently it's going to be on this Ultraman figure, and as well, we also have the Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Now, here is the thing about this guy, right? First of all, let's look at the actual website before we kind of dissect the boy Goku. Oh, this is a huge image. Oh my gosh. Event exclusives. Okay, so I guess Goku is the only one. Interesting. Dragon Fist Explosion Exclusive Edition, 96 bucks. As you can see, there's also Ultra 7 here, which looks like an SH Figures figure, yeah. And here's the map for the Tamashi booth. So I guess there must not be anything else. Yeah, it shows that they're going to be having Kid Goku there. Interesting. I'm kind of a little bit surprised that they didn't do like a SH Figuarts figure, because typically the SH Figuarts figures are the most popular in terms of the convention exclusives. Maybe Gogeta did really well. I would have to guess that the Figuarts Zero Gogeta from the last couple of videos did well enough for them to warrant releasing this as the only Dragon Ball convention exclusive, because Dragon Ball convention exclusives have been a thing at like Comic-Cons for years now. So that is really interesting. Let's take a look at him, right? So 96 bucks. And here we have the boy, right? Obviously, this is the Figuarts Zero Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Technically, I guess I'll probably just call it in passing the special color version. Now, you're probably thinking this figure is really cool, and it is pretty cool looking, if I'm being 100% honest with you. But this is quite literally just the same figure as the Figuarts Zero Super Saiyan 3 Goku that we have already seen and was released. Let's see, when does this say that this figure was released on the website here? 2021 as a limited exclusive, and it was 8,500 yen at the time. And they are charging, like we said, 96 bucks for this guy. Now, I will say the nice thing about this figure is the fact that we actually have like IRL pictures of the original version of the figure. So what that means is we can basically get an idea for what the new version of the figure is going to look like, because they are quite literally just changing the, you know, material that the hair is made out of. Now, again, to me, it kind of did look like they changed up the convention exclusive Gogeta. So maybe, ooh, that's a really cool setup. So maybe they will change the convention exclusive Goku a little bit. However, in my personal opinion, hi Thanos, I'm trying to get like the best pictures out of these, right? In my opinion, I don't really like this guy's face. I'm not a big fan of it personally, and it really stinks because I honestly like the rest of this figure quite a bit. Like, I think that the sculpt is pretty cool looking, but I just can't get over the face, to me personally, looking kind of like a bootleg. It doesn't help, right? As much as I do love Super Saiyan 3, when it comes to figures, it is really hard to capture the face, because obviously my man don't got no eyebrows. And typically when it comes to bootleg figures, and you know, the eyebrows on them, they're typically either messed up or sometimes like the paint will chip off. We're talking about low quality bootlegs, by the way, not like third party figures, what we would kind of consider that distinction, right? But I think from like the front facing angle, it's not that bad, right? It looks okay, but it's not anything that makes me scream like, holy cow, this is the greatest figure I've ever seen. But especially looking at it from these like kind of side angles, his face is a little like elongated, especially looking at it in this picture. So I don't know. For me personally, right, I don't really think this guy is worth 96 bucks. And the other interesting thing is, we'll actually see a tweet about this. Actually, let's see if we can pull it up right now. We'll kind of look for it here as I'm talking about this thing. When it comes to figures like this, right, it seems like that lately for the convention exclusives, it's kind of like a toss-up for me, right? Because it's like, on one hand, it's a good thing that they're not making like a whole new figure, because then it will be harder for, you know, people who really want that figure to get a brand new character if it is a convention exclusive. But obviously, if it's not a new figure, it tends to be something a little bit more like not as interesting, right? Here was the tweet that I wanted to bring up. So Baggy did note about this particular figure, right? For those wondering what their obsession is with clear parts, it is, I remember being told or read years ago that clear parts are cheap to produce, and then made a prediction we'd see a line of figures like this, and then the Clear Eyes line happened, and now we have this guy, right? To be fair, they did kind of do something similar with Gogeta, right? But this is obviously a lot more to an extreme, because if we look at this Goku, of course, the hair is clear, right? It has that kind of clear sort of aesthetic to it. And if we look at the dragon, especially from the back, you can see that he looks a lot more clear than this one, right? If we take a look at like just the standard production image from the back here, right? It definitely looks like to me that he definitely has a little bit more of like a clear molded material, I guess, that he's made out of would be the proper thing to say. So I suppose if you like this figure, then I don't think it would necessarily be a bad cop. But I just think $96 is a little steep for this guy, personally, for me anyway. I don't think I will be getting this figure despite being a giant Super Saiyan 3 Goku fan, unfortunately. I would probably rather have the normal one, honestly. And I can understand if you do like the clear parts gimmick for this figure, and just figures in general, but I know a lot of people also kind of don't prefer this sort of thing. And I feel like it was a little bit different with Gogeta. I actually just decided to look on Premium Bandai instead. And ironically enough, this figure is still available for pre-order, which means that they have not sold that many, honestly. But if we take a look at this guy, right, like especially the close-up of him, you can tell that it's like kind of clear, right? but it looks a lot more like, I guess, normal and just kind of like a different style of Dragon Ball hair. Whereas for this guy, obviously, because it's so much hair and the dragon also looks like that, it's a lot more obvious. So I don't know, I feel like it just works a little bit better on this Gogeta figure than it does on Goku. But certainly in the comment section below, let me know what you think, because I would be very curious to hear what you guys have to say. Moving on from Goku, we now have the Dragon Ball figure news for the 18th. By the way, this is pretty cool. This isn't Dragon Ball figure news related, but Battle of Gods hit its 10th anniversary, and they're actually going to be re-releasing it in theaters with the extended cut version on the 17th and 18th of October. So if you're trying to go to that, definitely do a little bit of Google searching and figure out what theater near you is going to have that. But yeah, so for this particular week, shout out to Dokkan Battle right there. We had the big news from Tokyo Game Show. That will be the exhibit from the 21st to the 24th. Interesting. So we'll have to see what they end up showing off at that. Not going to be Budokai Tenkaichi 4. But they're also releasing this week's November edition of V-Jump, where we will see the continuation of Fight Between Sun Max versus Gogeta, and of course the Ichiban Kuji, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this video. This one is officially being released in Japan. That unfortunately will be after this video, but we'll get to see those figures in person eventually, which will be pretty cool. So that is it for DBZFigures.com. Thank you guys, always, for holding it down. And we're going to move on to Baggy's Twitter now. So, to start us off, we have a couple of high-quality images for the Clear Rise Goku. I do not remember if I showed these in the last video, but this is also good just to show in this video in case you did not know what the Clear Rise line was, because obviously, you know, we talked about it earlier in this video. And, of course, Bandai has been using clear parts like this for a little bit now for this particular line. Frieza as well. And we will definitely get to see more images of these guys later on. But the cool thing is, even though we have these production images, we actually have a couple of in-person ones right here, which unfortunately are a little bit low quality. But, actually, I might be able to find this. Hold on. Even though these are watermarked with the Hobby Genki watermark, I could not find them on that website. However, doing a reverse Google image search found me this random Japanese figure blog. So I'll put a link in the description to this. No idea what this website is, but it has the pictures that were in Baggy's tweet in a little bit higher quality. So we have an actual IRL image of the Clear Rise Goku. Again, because this is pretty early on in the figure's kind of promotion here, I'm not sure if this is the final version of the figure or this is like the actual figure that they use for the production images, but so far this guy is looking really good, if I do say so myself. And as I've talked about in many videos in the past, I'm a huge fan of when they do Super Saiyan hair like this in the more kind of whitish, yellowish sort of look, and not to mention a lot more blocky and a lot more kind of like bubbly and not as many sharp edges, right? So pretty cool. Definitely looking very nice, even without the like glowing light behind him. As well, we also have Gohan here. Of course, this is the history box Gohan. This guy is really cool looking, I will say. I definitely like this figure a lot. Interestingly enough, Baggy talked about in his tweet that these guys were actually photo banned. Hi, Frieza. We'll take a look at his HDR picture in a second. So I don't really know how they got these images and why Hobby Genki posted them, because I always thought the Hobby Genki was like an official thing, but you can see there's like a, hey, don't take a picture of this thing in the background. So I'm not sure who got these pictures, but shout out to you. Hopefully you're not hunted down by the Bandai Ninjas or something. But nonetheless, this figure also looking pretty good, I will say. I have so many Super Saiyan 2 Gohan figures by this point that I probably can't justify getting this guy, to be 100% honest with you, even though he is really cool. But if you don't have a Super Saiyan 2 Gohan figure, and the final one looks as good as this one, I think this might be a recommendation, honestly. He looks pretty cool, if I do say so myself. And the final figure on here, Dragon Ball-wise, is the boy Frieza from the Solid Edgeworks line. I do really like this figure. I feel like his mouth is almost a little bit too big, maybe, or something like that. But overall, I think this figure looks really good. This is just a solid Final Form Frieza figure. It's interesting as well that the, I don't even know what you would call those, right? Like, just the purple bits, I guess, on his body are a lot less of, like, the usual Frieza purple and more almost, like, blue. I don't know if that's just the paint that they use, or if they were referencing like something from the manga or a different color scheme or something like that. But nonetheless, overall, I mean, the figure sculpt looks really, really good, if I do say so myself. So I'm hoping that those end up staying that way. This is just Mitsuri and then a couple of other figures that aren't Dragon Ball related here from the event. But yeah, so I don't know how they got these pictures, because they were photo banned at the event that this came from. But shout out to you, my friend. Thank you for putting it all on the line so we can see a little bit more of a look as to what these guys will look like with the final product. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to remind you guys of. Good news is that the February production images and info should release in about 3 weeks. But March should only be about a few weeks after that, not the usual 1 month after. And we'll just have to wait a little bit longer, not as long as it could be. By the way, this was posted on the 6th of September. And that was currently about 2 weeks ago to tomorrow, the day after this video was posted. So that will mean that in about a week-ish from this video, we will be seeing the February prize figures, which will be pretty cool, which I believe this is March and this is February. So that's this BOS figure, right, that we have no idea what this is going to be. The special, what would that be, 15, 16, 17, 18, right? The BOS special 18. Dragon Ball Super, whatever this will be. I don't know if all of the BOS line has been labeled as Dragon Ball Super recently, or if that's specifically for this, like, it'll be a Dragon Ball Super figure, because obviously, you know, we've talked about on this channel before that they love to label this type of stuff as the wrong series, just because, I don't know, you know, however they decide to, you know, market it. As well, though, the Matchmakers Vegeta and Zarbon, which I'm sure people are really excited for, because obviously, right, the only Zarbon figure that I can think of in recent time was that Ichiban Kuji one we got with, like, Frieza's minions, basically. And obviously that figure was really overpriced. Plus, this should be Monster Zarbon, considering that this is Vegeta versus Zarbon on Namek. So that will be pretty cool to see how those figures turn out. As well, coming up for March, we of course have, oh boy, I don't know if I can read that Roman numeral, bro. Is that 21? I don't know what that would be, actually. Maybe that is 19, because the last one was 18? I don't know, bro. I can't read Roman numerals like that. But for March, we have another BOS figure coming up. We have another Solid Edgeworks figure as well. Another History Box figure, and the GX Materia Nappa. Which is really, really cool. So we actually have no idea what these top 3 figures are, as far as I know. It could literally be anything. So that is pretty cool, considering the Solid Edgeworks line and the History Box line, especially the Solid Edgeworks line, has been kind of cooking as of recent time. They've gotten a huge glow up. So we'll see what ends up becoming of these guys. And obviously GX Materia Nappa will be very exciting to see what that is, right? I'm assuming it'll probably be the mouth beam, maybe like Raccoon. Maybe it'll be something else. I'm not too sure. I don't really remember what other blast attacks that Nappa does besides the mouth beam. That's like the only one that I can remember off the top of my head. But nonetheless, definitely excited for these. So probably by the next video, unless it's like a really huge figure, in terms of like the character choice for one of these 3, or well, I guess this. We'll see if I end up making a video on this right away, or if I just save it for the Figure News recap. Regardless, though, this was something else interesting that I wanted to point out. I know everybody kind of just calls the series Dragon Ball anyway, but it is kind of interesting that, right, you can see here, they've just been calling Dragon Ball recently. I mean, this one is a little ironic, considering that this is the actual, like, Dragon Ball OG Dragon Ball logo. But this, of course, is basically like the modernized Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super logo, just without the Z or Super at the end, and they're just kind of doing this. Funny enough, I feel like I've seen fan edits of the logo looking like this for a super long time, but I don't think I've ever actually seen the official company use it, which is just kind of interesting. But it does seem that that is what they're using for it. Obviously, this is for New York Comic Con, and this was for San Diego Comic Con, so quite interesting. I wonder what that means for the future of the franchise, and, you know, if we do get the anime, you know, in our grandkids' lifetimes, you know, what it will be called by that point. So that'll be really interesting to see. This was also something I just wanted to throw in the video, because we've kind of talked about him a little bit throughout, right? Nothing too crazy, but this is just one of these Sandland figures. I believe that this is the Ichiban Kuji one. it looks pretty good, honestly. I will say his face is a little like deadpan, but I think that's kind of supposed to be the point. And I think we do have one more image from later. By the way, this was also pretty cool. The June DB Kuji is starting to release for the Ichiban show now in the US. This was probably the best price for Ichiban Kuji this year, well, for Goku, Gohan, and Roshi. And we actually talked about this in a separate video because I was like, holy cow, they're finally lowering Ichiban Kuji prices. And that was not the case. It just was that these figures are a little bit smaller, so they charged a lot less. But, ironically enough, I actually did get Grandpa Gohan and Master Roshi recently. I don't know if I'm going to do full videos on those. I've been kind of thinking about how I want to go about doing figure unboxing videos going forward. Maybe trying to focus on more hype characters for like big figure unboxing videos, and then doing like YouTube shorts of some of the characters that I just collect that maybe people like wouldn't be interested in watching a full 10-minute video of or something like that. But you can definitely let me know your thoughts on the comments on that one, because obviously at this point I'm doing like one figure unboxing basically like every other week type of deal. But nonetheless, if you did pre-order these guys, or if you would like to order them now, they should be available at retailers that would sell figures nowadays, right? Or, well, nowadays, like, you know, it's available now at places that would sell figures, basically. Or if your pre-orders, you know, were obviously put in way back, then you should be getting these figures in now. Alright, so we have some final images of the boy Gohan Beast, the history box one. I definitely think that, right, I would probably recommend, like Baggy said himself, waiting for the solid Edgeworks one, personally. We've talked about that figure in a couple of past videos. I don't think that this figure is bad. I think that the figure actually looks pretty good. The hair maybe is even a little bit short. I mean, okay, maybe not looking from that angle. Oh, hey, look. There's the funny Sandland guy back there. Yeah, obviously, trying to reference this scene, right, was what the original intention of this figure was. And obviously having Gohan's little, like, Gohan Beast aura and the red electricity behind it. I will say, I don't think that this figure looks bad by any means. I think it looks pretty cool. I definitely want to see this guy in person, though, before I would buy him. I don't even know how I could, but I just feel like it's because something about his mouth just feels really off to me. And obviously, with the solid Edgeworks Gohan Beast, that version of the figure is this same scene, and not only is it going to be a little bit bigger, but in my opinion, I think the face looks a little bit better on it. So, if you would like a figure from the scene, I would personally recommend waiting for that one. However, I definitely do not think that getting this guy is a bad idea for sure. Shout out to Omacha Hedgela, by the way, for those images right there. Actually, I should keep that open so I can throw that in the video later. By the way, speaking of the boy Gohan Beast, we got some more images of the Figuarts Zero Gohan Beast that I know a lot of people are really highly anticipating. We talked about this guy way earlier in the year, and I made, I think, even like 2 videos on him, with obviously his initial like debut. This was shown off at, I'm not exactly sure where this is. Maybe this was the Paris event that we talked about earlier in the video, or maybe this was at something else recently. But it is kind of interesting to note, right? Like with this guy, let me go ahead and pull up like the production image in another tab here. What's interesting about this individual figure is, first of all, right, I think that the thing that you'll probably notice right out the gate is the hair, right? We talked about this when this figure was originally shown off. The hair definitely looks a lot more silver than it does Gohan Beast, kind of like, I don't even know what it's really the right word for it, to be honest. It's like the white kind of look, right? The more pale, I guess. I don't know, maybe periwinkle is the right word. I know that's like a color that I feel like I have not said in many years of my life, but obviously this is a lot more silver, right? Like it's a lot more Ultra Instinct looking, because if we look here, right, at the original production image, and we compare this to the actual figure here, right, which this is almost the same angle, because this is obviously in different lighting, right? They took this in like the best lighting possible, and they were making all the colors pop and everything like that, right? You can see that this looks a lot more like darker silver, and this looks almost more gray than it does silver in these actual images. Obviously, right, these colors were not going to be popping as much as the original production image, because of course, you know, they kind of brighten this up a little bit in Photoshop and that type of stuff to make the figure stand out. And not to mention, this looks a lot more blue, right? It has a lot more highlights of blue with the special beam cannon forming in his hand. And here, excuse me, you can definitely see it, but it certainly looks a lot more washed out than it did in those original productions. I think his face is definitely on point, if I do say so myself. I think they definitely nailed it with his face sculpt. It is also interesting to see, by the way, I didn't even really notice this. Orange Piccolo is standing right next to him. Wow, is this guy really going to be that small? Orange Piccolo, this is the SH Figuarts Orange Piccolo, standing on his 2 feet next to Gohan on the base. This figure will certainly be longer, like, horizontally, but height-wise, it almost looks like he's not even that much, like, taller than the SH Figuarts Orange Piccolo, which leads me to believe that this guy is pretty small, in all honesty. You can kind of even see him there next to the SH Figuarts Gohan Beast, but it's a little bit harder to see with the camera angle that they have at play there. But yeah, I still think that this figure looks really good. I just think that the only thing with this guy that is a bit of a shame, right? I mean, with the colors being washed out is definitely a little bit of a shame, but I feel like I've seen that on so many Figuarts Zero figures at this point that it doesn't, like, bother me as much, or it's not, like, as much of a surprise for me. Like, I know the Figuarts Zero Gogeta, the original one, that was what the NYCC Exclusive was that we talked about earlier in this video, was based off of. That figure was super washed out on the original release of it, so it kind of doesn't surprise me. But that silver hair is definitely a little bit unfortunate for sure. I do kind of hope that somebody maybe paints this and, like, picks a good color for it and makes it look really nice. But yeah, this person was saying that basically you know, obviously, right, this guy took a picture of it. His friend took a picture of it for it. But apparently this is the first product is full paint. 10 years ago that we saw the previous skin with a Dragon Ball figure with full paint. Interesting. I'm not exactly sure what that means. If you understand, let me know in the comments, because Google Translate is not doing me good here. Add photo. I see. It's just additional photos. But yeah, so kind of interesting comparing it to the production image. So we'll have to see when we eventually get it in hand. Here's a couple more images of the Boy History Box Goku, oh my gosh, Gohan. I feel like it looks a little bit better here, right? I was kind of looking at this guy thinking that he had some more thicker black lines around his lips or his mouth, I guess it would be, but definitely looks a little bit better in this lighting for sure. I still think that the History Box face looks a little bit better. Something about this face is definitely a little bit off-putting to me. Another angle of this guy, right, in a little bit different lighting. That is a really curved bang. Holy cow. I wonder if that's not protected properly in the box. You can also see a bunch of the figures that were released at this time with Gohan there. Ironically enough, you can also see the DXF Gohan is obviously a little bit bigger than the History Box one. And by golly, look at how much bigger his hair is by comparison, even though he's not even that much bigger of a figure. That's kind of wild. Okay, so this was the other thing that I really wanted to talk about. So we got the quote-unquote final images of the Ichiban Kuji for the Buu Saga one, right? Now, keep in mind, these are more so like the official production images that are from Bandai, right? These aren't the official production image, or the official production image, I keep saying that, I'm sorry. The final images, rather, from, like, actual people, right? Because obviously, when we get them from actual individuals who are just buying these figures in Japan, then of course, right, we're going to get a more kind of, like, detailed look, I guess would be the best way to put it. Or obviously, you know, we'll get people taking a bunch of multiple different angles of pictures, and obviously we will also be, you know, seeing it from not like the company trying to show us what they want us to see, I guess. That sounds like so like terrible to say, but obviously when it comes to stuff like this, right, the people are the ones that you really want to be, you know, looking at the pictures from, because obviously they're the ones who are just kind of gonna show you how it looks. Ironically enough, I actually was able to find this on the official website, so let's actually take a look at it there, because we can, you know, get like just a better look at it here. Can we open this in a new tab as well? First of all, by the way, I don't know if we got a good look at these in a previous video, but these are what the towels will look like for this particular Ichiban Kuji set. I think we only saw them in low quality last time, so those do look pretty cool. As well, there's also going to be some cups for some different Dragon Ball art that we've definitely seen in the past. And these different little license plates, which I'm assuming that's still what they are. I guess it'd be like replacement license plates, because obviously, you know, like, there's no number on it. Okay. Can we just open this in a new tab? We can. So here's the boy Great SAIYAN, right? This is the final figure. I definitely think that this one is probably my favorite and probably the best looking. It is a little bit unfortunate that in that regard he is the last one prize figure. Let's actually see if we can't look at it this way, and then we'll get like a full view. Yeah, because this will be a little bit easier. Obviously, this figure does come with the glasses, right, if we go here, right, you can see obviously it has the interchangeable helmet, and then it also has the glasses. Sorry, I think it's because it's like auto-rotating the images. Which is pretty cool, right? And it's nice that they have those two heads. I think both of them look really good. I'm not really sure which one I like better. I actually do think the Gohan's glasses head does look pretty good, and I'll be curious to see if you can actually take that off, because obviously it's a completely different head than this one. When it comes to Gohan himself, let's just open these in new tabs, because that's going to be way too annoying to deal with that. Gohan looks pretty good. I will say I feel like something is a little bit off with his face, personally. It's not like the worst face I've ever seen, but something about it just feels like a tiny bit off. Maybe like the shape. I will say, though, I'm definitely not a fan of how the hair turned out. And funny enough, I think that's what Baggy said. He doesn't like the hair color on SAIYAN. Okay. I kind of don't like the way that this hair looks. I don't know. I mean, I guess this is accurate enough to how it looked and not, but it looks a little bit too, like, blotchy or blocky or something like that. As well, a really interesting thing that you'll kind of see with all these images, right? Obviously, SAIYAN looks fine because he's kind of just, you know, green anyway. But, for some reason, all of these images look like really washed out. I'm not really sure if that's because of the way that the website is displaying them, or like the way that the pictures were taken, or the way that they were edited, or something like that. But I can tell you right now that this definitely looks like not as pink, right? Like if we go back to the original image, because thankfully we have it right here. If we go back to like Deborah here, he definitely looks a lot more pink than he does in this image, right? And again, for these images, since these are like the production images, they tend to brighten them up a little bit to kind of make them look a little bit more appealing, right? But this definitely looks a little bit more washed out. Yeah, I would even say a lot more washed out, personally. Maybe this is a little bit more color accurate to Deborah, but when we get to Boo, I think it's definitely a little bit worse for wear. However, do I think Deborah does look pretty good, though. Don't really have any complaints on his sculpt, honestly. I think the figure just looks pretty nice, honestly. Which is nice to be able to say that, all things considered, considering sometimes how the Ichiban Kuji figures turn out. Okay, so these were just like close-ups and IRLs of those. That's not really that big a deal. Yeah, so Kid Boo, right? Kid Boo looks super washed out. Holy cow. What did they do to my boy? He is so much more pink than this. Let's go back up. Actually, let's just open these up. And okay, that's actually the last figure. Yeah, these are just the, like, IRL stuff. I mean, like I said, I don't really think that you need to, like, see this in too much detail. But, again, it's just, like, towels and stuff. And then the cups. And then the thing breaking, apparently. Okay, well, I'll click on it down here and then see if it works that way. Nope. All right, I guess the website just broke. Let's scroll up to Boo, though. For Kid Boo, where is that front-facing angle? So he's, like, not super pink here, right? It's definitely still a little bit more of, like, a lighter pink. Like, kind of, you know, almost more of, like, a skin tone kind of pink, I guess. Rather than just, like, super bright. But even here in this image, I feel like he looks even more washed out, right? Which is kind of weird to say. Like, this feels a little bit more natural for the color, while this just feels a little bit more, like, yucky, almost. I don't know. I will say, they obviously reused his pants from a previous Kid Boo, but I feel like the face doesn't look as good. It's like a very slight difference, right? But I felt like this crazed look for Kid Boo looked pretty good. And when I look at this figure, I think his eyes are smaller. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Like, if we flip between these, this is, like, exactly the same angle, right? I swear his little, like, head tentacle is a little bit smaller. His hands are, like, basically the same. It really looks like to me that his eyes are just so much smaller than they are on this figure. I don't know why. But that's definitely how it looks to me. I don't know. I don't think I will get this guy. I was almost kind of interested in this guy because I don't have any Kid Boo figures at the moment. I will get the GX Material one at some point. But, yeah, I don't know. He just looks super washed out. And even then, if we go to Bye Guys Goku, this one is a little bit harder. And again, this is why I'm saying, like, these quote-unquote final images aren't necessarily the best always, because sometimes they still do some, like, silly lighting effects like this. Like, obviously, the edges of the figure are not going to be green, but that's because of, like, the, like, power-up effect that they have in the background of Goku, right? But nonetheless, I feel like his sculpt still looks just about the same to me, right? If we go back to, sorry, Kibu, goodbye. If we go to Goku here, I think this angle is best, right? Even here, it still looks a little bit more washed out, like the orange and the blue certainly doesn't look as bright on this image, even though ironically enough, there's like this blinding background, right? Goku's hair also looks a lot more yellowy here, when here it looks a lot more orange, right? I think the face sculpt is more or less the same. I kind of like it more on this one, to be honest with you, but it is a little bit hard to tell considering that obviously it's at an angle and that kind of looks like a shadow on his mouth. But I do almost like the face more on the final one of this one, which I mean is a good thing because obviously, you know, sometimes the faces on the figures end up looking a little bit kind of screwy on the final version of it. But I am very happy to say that at least I think Goku's face turned out pretty good. It'll be interesting to see though from the front, right? By the way, here was that final image I was just trying to show you with the little license plate things. But because obviously, right, they only show us the front-facing image on this particular image right here. So obviously on the final version, we'll have to wait and see what that actually looks like. Moving on from that, though, overseas, folks, Amiami Global does have a bunch of Ichiban Kujis in stock, so if you would like to check this out, definitely check how much it will cost to ship from Japan and all that fun stuff, but you might be able to catch a couple of deals. I know that actually I was looking at maybe getting this guy, because I definitely still want to cop that bad boy at some point, but definitely keep an eye out, and this is also just my, you know, Video-ly PSA. I don't know what to call that, right, like bi-weekly or weekly Video-ly PSA to just keep checking figure shops and online stores and stuff for sales, because you'll never know what you might find. I found a couple deals just kind of perusing once in a while. Moving on from that, interesting information that we don't have images for yet, but apparently the next Dragon Stars Battle Pack will be Bardock versus First Form Frieza, so that'll be pretty interesting to see. Funny that Baggy used the Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle wallpaper here. Upcoming more Dragon Ball figures listed. Apparently Dragon Stars is going to be getting a metal cooler, so that will be really interesting to see. I cannot wait to talk about this figure purely from the perspective of all of the shenanigans that happened with the SH Figuarts cooler, the metal cooler one, and how expensive that bad boy was. It'll be interesting to see the quality on this figure and the paint job on this figure to see if he will be a substitute for that crazy expensive SH Figuarts figure, because this guy will be like 20 bucks, so if they do him right, that could be a huge blowout for Bandai. That would be really cool to see. Power Up Pack is going to be Super Saiyan Blue Goku, which is the one that comes with all the effects. And the next Limit Breaker figure is apparently going to be Final Form Frieza. That's the, like, bigger figures that almost kind of remind me of vinyl figures, but now they're made out of regular plastic. I do have a Golden Frieza, funny enough, that's actually below my shelf, and I really, really like that Golden Frieza. It's like the only Limit Breaker figure that I ever saw, and I was like, yeah, that's an instant cop. So I'm wondering if they're just going to reuse that figure and then make him base form. We'll have to see. But very interesting information. Obviously, we will be able to see these figures when they actually, like, show the images, right? This was also just an interesting little fun fact that I thought that I would include here. Seeing this Goku figure randomly reminded me that Shintani, right, the artist of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, said he used existing figures as references for some of his designs, and then sculptors use his designs to make figures. Kind of funny that how it goes full circle like that sometimes, right? Here was the Sandland figure, by the way. This was the prize A for the Ichiban Kuji, and I believe the last one prize as well. Yeah, the last one prize was the one where he was smiling, and this one, which was him holding the water bottle, was the prize A. Okay, so that actually means that I believe the Sandland figure that we took a look at earlier in this video, yeah, this is the prize A figure. Okay, because he's holding the water bottle in this image there. Interestingly enough, I did not know this, but our figure sculpting GOAT, which we have talked about many times on the series, the boy Vorok Varquo, still don't know how to pronounce his name. He and the boy Joe, which they have obviously, and Riku as well, they have all been kind of working together a lot on figures recently. Apparently, they were responsible for this guy. They all kind of collaborated on this one, so very, very cool. Makes sense because obviously they're big on Toriyama figures, so obviously, you know, it kind of makes sense that they would be the ones who'd be responsible for this bad boy, but it's still pretty cool that they're working on some Ichiban Kuji figures and not necessarily just Dragon Ball. Moving on from that, we did have the Page in V-Jump for the matchmakers, oh my gosh, Buhan, excuse me, and Vegito, which is pretty cool. Definitely excited to get my hands on these guys when they eventually release. This was also just something else I thought I'd throw in here. I talk about these wafer stickers a lot on this series, so the new set is going to be releasing on November 4th. Very, very cool. I'm excited for this one, to see that one in person from someone who gets their hands on it, because that is super cool for sure, where you put it together like that. We did have the Ichiban Kuji that we just talked about, ironically enough, in V-Jump as well, but nothing new in terms of information about it. And at the event, I believe this was actually at that event in France that we talked about earlier in the video, in Paris, yeah. They had the Gogeta on display. Ironically enough, this is someone speaking French in the comments, so I guess that makes sense. I feel like the face looks better on him, I will say. The image here is really hard to tell because of the lighting that they use for the setup, right? Definitely, it looks a little bit better to me. I feel like his eyes are like almost like a little bit like thinner or something. But I swear that it looks better than the original one. I would really have to see someone compare them side by side. Maybe I can find a YouTube video on that or something. But nonetheless, I still think his face looks a little better. It's still not great because obviously they're using the original sculpt, but it's definitely better in my opinion. And then obviously we have the boy Janemba with a little bit of a side shot there. And maybe it is just the shadows of how they took the picture, because like from what we were looking at earlier in the video, right? He definitely doesn't look as heavily shaded as he did in those images that we saw earlier. And this is obviously someone just taking a picture of it on the shelf. So, I don't know. Kind of interesting. We're really going to have to see how this looks when we actually get our hands on it. I will say, Janemba's eyes look really weird. You can't see it from this side, but is that an eye or like an overlap of paint? Because it should be a black circle, should it not? I don't know why it's the same color as him. I don't know if this is just like a messed up one or if it's just something with the camera. I'm not really sure, but the rest of the figure definitely looks super solid nonetheless. And the last piece of figure news that we have here is that the Dragon Ball Super Heroes, or I guess, wait, Super Dragon Ball Heroes. There's so many super names for Dragon Ball now, I'm sorry. It's hard to keep track. Apparently, this is going to be released on the 16th of December. So obviously, this is not going to be for a little while that we'll see actual images of these. But we talked about these in a previous video. That is when we'll get to see some final images of these guys from people who get their hands on the figures. And I believe that is it for this double week of Dragon Ball bi-weekly figure news. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Definitely let me know what was your favorite figure out of the list of figures that we took a look at today. Definitely let me know as well your thoughts on the boy Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I am definitely going to be curious to hear what you guys have to say about this figure in the comments, because I feel like this is one of those figures to me that you would see this and go, oh my gosh, this looks so cool. How would somebody not like this? But then you kind of learn the logistics behind it and some of the shenanigans that it's just another figure but just redone, and the clear parts, you know, make it cheaper, but they're charging even more than the original one, you know, and then that kind of dampens it. Maybe that's just my, you know, inner figure collector snob talking there. But that is why I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.